my name's Jake, and I'll never go camping again after what happened last month in the Peak District. Me and my girlfriend Lucy decided to do a weekend camping trip. We found this small campsite online, family-run place, only 6 pitches. When we arrived Friday evening, there was just one other tent set up at the far end. We waved but didn't see anyone around. Figured they were out hiking. We set up our tent, made dinner, and settled in for the night. Around midnight, I woke up needing a piss. When I stepped outside, I noticed something odd. There was a light on in the other tent, but it was just sitting there, completely still. No shadows moving, no sounds, just a dim orange glow. I thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. But around 3 in the morning, Lucy shook me awake. "Someone's walking around," she whispered. I heard it too. Footsteps on the gravel path, slow and deliberate, getting closer to our tent. They stopped right outside. I could hear breathing, heavy and ragged, then a voice quiet, talking to itself. "Check the blue one." "No, not yet. Wait until they're asleep." My blood went cold. I grabbed my phone, ready to call the police, but then the footsteps moved away. I watched through a gap in the tent as a figure walked back toward the other tent. He was carrying something, a bag or rucksack, and he kept looking back at our tent. "We need to tell someone," Lucy said, her voice shaking. In the morning, we went to the campsite owner's cottage. He was an older man named Bill, been running the place for 30 years. I told him what we'd heard. His face went pale. "What did the other tent look like?" "Green, dome tent, older style," I said, "at pitch 6. Bill grabbed his coat. "That tent's been there for 4 days. Bloke who owns it checked in Monday, paid cash, no car. Said he was hiking the trails. I haven't seen him since Tuesday." We walked back to the campsite together. The tent was still there, zipped shut. Bill called out. No answer. He unzipped it carefully. The smell hit us first. Stale sweat, old food, something else I couldn't identify. Inside was a sleeping bag, some clothes, and 3 rucksacks. Not hiking rucksacks, normal ones, the kind kids use for school. Bill picked one up and opened it. It was full of stuff. Wallets, phones, watches, car keys. At least a dozen wallets, all different. "Jesus Christ," Bill muttered. He pulled out his phone and called the police. While we waited, Bill explained. There'd been break-ins at the campsite for the past 2 weeks. Campers reporting things stolen from their tents and cars while they were out hiking. Small stuff mostly. Nobody thought much of it, figured it was opportunistic thieves passing through. "But he's been staying here," Bill said, "using my campsite as a base, going through everyone's stuff while they're out during the day." The police arrived 20 minutes later. They searched the tent properly and found more stolen items. Camping equipment, food, even some prescription medication. While they were documenting everything, one of the officers found a notebook. It had dates and times, descriptions of tents and cars, notes about when people left for hikes. "He's been watching everyone," the officer said, "planning when to rob them." They found us in there too, our tent number, our car registration, and a note. "Blue tent couple, leave early morning for hikes, check tonight." That's when I realized what we'd heard at 3 in the morning. He'd been planning to rob us. Probably checking if we were asleep, getting ready to go through our car or tent. We'd woken up just in time. The police set up surveillance and caught him that evening when he came back to the campsite. Turned out he'd been doing this for months, moving between different campsites in the area, stealing from tourists and hikers. He'd sleep rough in the woods during the day, then come back at night to go through his stolen goods and plan his next hits. When they arrested him, they found he had a whole system. He'd sell the phones and watches online, use the credit cards for small purchases before people reported them stolen, and keep the cash. He'd made thousands. The officer told us we were lucky. "He's got a knife in his tent," he said. "We don't know if he would have used it, but better you didn't find out." We packed up that afternoon and left. Lucy had nightmares for weeks, kept waking up thinking she heard footsteps. I kept thinking about that voice outside our tent muttering to himself, planning when to rob us. What would have happened if we'd confronted him, if I'd unzipped the tent and challenged him? I saw in the news last week that he got 3 years. Police found stolen goods worth over £50,000, dozens of victims. Some people had their entire holidays ruined, passports stolen, cards maxed out. We got our stuff back, the things that were in his tent with our registration number next to them. My wallet, Lucy's phone, our car keys. He'd already taken them from our car while we were asleep that first night. We just hadn't noticed yet. That's what scares me most. He was already in our car, already going through our stuff. And we were sleeping 20 feet away, completely unaware. Makes you realize how vulnerable you are out there, how easy it is for someone to watch you, plan, and wait for the right moment. I'll never camp again. I can't shake the feeling of being watched, of someone standing outside in the dark waiting for me to fall asleep. My name's David, and I need to tell someone what happened to me 2 weeks ago in the Scottish Highlands. I still can't sleep properly. I'm 32. Been solo camping for years. I'd planned a 3-day wild camping trip in Glen Coe, miles from the nearest road. I set up camp on the second evening in a small clearing beside a loch. It was late September, mist rolling in off the water. Everything was peaceful until around 10 that night. I was in my tent reading when I heard something outside, heavy footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving around my camp. I figured it was a deer. We get massive red deer up there, nothing to worry about. But then it stopped right outside my tent. I could hear breathing, deep, raspy breathing, like whatever it was had been running hard, then sniffing. Long, loud sniffs moving along the side of my tent like it was trying to figure out what was inside. I lay there frozen. Deer don't do this. They run when they smell humans. This thing was investigating my tent, taking its time. Then it started scratching, not aggressive scratching, more curious, like it was testing the fabric. The sound made my skin crawl because it didn't sound like hooves or normal claws. It was too deliberate, too methodical. I sat up slowly and grabbed my knife. The scratching stopped immediately. Everything went quiet. Then I heard it move, and that's when I knew something was really wrong. The footsteps were too heavy, too slow, and they sounded like they were coming from something walking on 4 legs, but big. Really big. Bigger than any deer I'd ever encountered. The ground actually vibrated slightly with each step. It circled my tent. I could track it by sound, moving around me in a slow circle. Then it stopped at the back, and I saw its shadow against the tent fabric. My torch was dying, but gave off just enough light for me to see the silhouette. It was massive, easily the size of a cow, maybe bigger, but the shape was all wrong. The head was huge and low to the ground, and I could see what looked like a ridge along its back. The body was thick, muscular. Then it pressed against the tent, not hard, just testing it, and I could feel the weight of it. The poles creaked. Whatever this thing was, it was heavy enough to collapse my tent if it wanted to. I shouted at it, "Get away, go!" It stepped back immediately. I heard it move a few feet away, then stop. It was still there, just standing in the darkness, and I could hear that breathing again. Steady, patient, like it was waiting. That's when I decided to run. I grabbed my phone, keys, and knife, unzipped the tent, and bolted. I expected to see it, to come face to face with whatever had been circling my tent. Nothing. The clearing looked empty, but the grass was flattened in a wide circle around my tent, and there were marks in the soft earth near where I'd seen the shadow. Deep impressions, not like deer tracks. These were broader, heavier, with drag marks between them, like something with a massive weight had been shifting around. I didn't wait to investigate. I just ran through the darkness toward the trail, my phone torch barely lighting the way. And behind me I heard it, branches snapping, heavy movement through the undergrowth. It was following me. Every time I stopped to catch my breath, the sounds stopped. Every time I ran, they started again. It followed me for almost an hour, always staying just out of sight in the trees. I never saw it, but I could hear it keeping pace, hear branches breaking under its weight. When I finally reached the main trail, the sound stopped, like it didn't want to leave the forest. I ran the rest of the way to my car and drove straight home, left all my gear behind. 3 days later, mountain rescue called. Someone had found my tent. It had been torn apart, big tears in the fabric, the poles snapped. The rescue guy said they found tracks around it that they couldn't identify. Too big for deer, wrong shape for any animal they knew. They thought maybe it was a bear, but we don't have bears in Scotland. I looked it up afterward, searched for large animals in the Highlands. Red deer, wildcats, nothing matches what I experienced. Nothing that heavy, nothing that would stalk a tent like that. Some people online suggested it could have been a wild boar. They're making a comeback in Scotland. Massive things can weigh over 300 pounds. Aggressive when curious. But the tracks weren't right, and boars don't follow people for an hour through the forest. Others said maybe it was a stag in rut when they're territorial and aggressive. But I've encountered stags before. This wasn't that. This was something else. Something bigger. The thing that haunts me most is how it behaved. It wasn't hunting me. It was curious. It tested my tent, circled it, waited. And when I ran, it followed but never tried to catch me, like it was seeing what I would do. That's not normal animal behavior. Whatever it is, it's out there, and I'm never going back to find out.